Hi there, I'm Dave Horton, the creator of Jambonz. Jambonz is the open source CPaaS for service providers. We've recently come out with a new release 0.7.0, and this is the first in a series of short videos just demonstrating some of the new features. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate the support that we've added for Microsoft Speech. And since it's the first video in the series, I'll also go through how to do a quick install based on the AWS Marketplace option. Jambonz is a self-hosted CPaaS. It's all open source under the MIT license, so you can download it and run it on any hosted environment or your own hardware if you like, and we've helped people install on many hosted systems and on their own hardware. However, AWS, we've done a lot of work to make it super simple, so it's still the quickest and easiest way to spin up a Jambonz cluster. Let's go through and do so. If you go to jambonz.org, and click on the banner at the top, click to install from AWS Marketplace. You'll be brought to the AWS Marketplace, and you can see the latest version is 0.7.0. That's our current release. Continue to subscribe. There is a small monthly charge of, I think, $18 a month to use this configuration, and then select Continue to Launch. We pick the version, which is going to be the latest version, and then we can pick our region. I'm going to deploy in EU London. Continue to launch. And select Launch Cloud Formation. Now on the very first screen of the cloud formation, we can just take the defaults and select Next. On the second screen, I'm going to go ahead and give this stack a name, my cloud formation stack a name. And you can see there are a bunch of parameters that we can set. Things like whether we want to lock down the SIP and RTP only from certain destinations or allow it in from the world. By default, it's in from everywhere. You do need to specify where you want to allow SSH connections from. It could be just your own laptop or local network. I'm going to allow that in from the world. Then you pick your instance type, of course. Got a variety of instances from small to large. I'm going to just take a relatively modest T2 medium, select a key that I've got in that region, and we're good to go. I will give it a name tag as well. And we're at the final screen where we can review our options. And if we're happy with them, then we go ahead and create a stack and launch. So now we've launched Jambonz stack in EU London. This will take about 2 to 3 minutes to run through. And then we'll have a Jambonz system up and running in our VPC in EU London. I'm going to fast forward to let this stack creation play out. Now once it's done, if we go to the Outputs panel here, we can see some information. One is the URL of the portal, which we can go to. Now when the stack first completes executing, it takes a few minutes for user data scripts on the instance to run the very first time to seed the database. So if you try to log into the portal before then, you'll get this 502 bad gateway. If that happens, just wait a minute or two and then retry and you'll be all set. In the Outputs panel, we can also see the initial user and password. So the username is admin, that'll stay the same. The password is initially set to a default, which is the instance ID of the EC2 instance, and you'll be forced to change that on your first login, as we'll see in a second. Okay, we've waited a couple minutes, so let's try again and go to the portal. And we can see we get the login page now. Let's copy the initial password and go ahead and log in. And we're forced to change the password. I'll select a new password. And we're good. So we've got our account all set up. We've got a default account already created. You can see we've got a couple of applications, a Hello World application and an Outdial application. Let's look at the Hello World application. Now we want to test Microsoft Speech. So you can see under Speech Synthesis Vendors, we already supported Google and AWS, of course, and now we support Microsoft. So we can go in and pick any of their languages, and then any of their voices with the languages. Let's just go ahead for Christopher Mail. Same thing with Speech Rec. We can support Microsoft and any of the languages that Microsoft supports for speech recognition. Go ahead and save that. The other part of it is to add our speech credentials. Let's go into speech, add a speech service, say Microsoft, and you're going to want to get your Microsoft subscription key, put that in, and the region. So I've got a Microsoft subscription that's actually in US East 1, so I'll put that in. I don't think I have one in London. So add text to speech. It will check it out and verify that that's okay. So now we've got our Microsoft Speech credential configured, and we've got our application using Microsoft Speech. To test it out, we need to route a call into our new CPaaS that we just stood up. I'm going to use Twilio. Let's add Twilio as a carrier. So go add Twilio. Now I could go ahead and add all this information manually, but they're in our predefined list, so I'll just pick them. And you can see I've got all their gateways automatically added. I'm not going to use their username password authentication. I'll use their IP access, and I'll sort of whitelist the IP of this server, which I can see right up here. It says have your carriers whitelist our IP, and there's the IP. We're going to want to go put that into Twilio in a second. I'll show you where, so let's copy that. For outbound, I'm going to use I'm going to create a destination gateway on Twilio called jambonz XYZ, and we're good. So that's what we need to set up on the Jambonz side. I'll quickly pop over to Twilio, where I've already got an elastic SIP trunk that I'd used before, so we're going to use this, and I simply add that IP as an originating URI, and I'm good to go. I mentioned IP access authentication on Twilio, which I am using. If I go to their terminations tab, I can see that I'm using an IP access called jam123. So let me just go to that specific IP access list and also add my new IP. I'm going to delete the one that's there. And I'll go ahead and add my IP, whitelist my server on Twilio. So now I'm good. One last thing I want to do is remind myself what phone number I've got pointed to Twilio. Here it is. So let's go add that same phone number on Jambonz, and let's point it to the application that we modified to use Microsoft Speech, text-to-speech. So I add the phone number, the SIP trunk is Twilio. I can add it to any account or to all accounts, or I need to add it to an account, and I'm going to add it to the default account. And I'm going to make the application be the Hello World application. So there we are. We're all set now. We should be able to dial that number, have Twilio route it to us, and be using Microsoft text-to-speech. All right, let's try that now. Dialing the number.
There, and welcome to Jambonz. Jambonz is the CPaaS designed with the needs of communication service providers in mind. This is an example of simple text-to-speech, but there is so much more you can do. Try us out.
All right, and that is Christopher. And as mentioned, we can use any of the voices, so let's try Jennifer.
Hi there, and welcome to Jambonz. Jambonz is the CPaaS.
There we go. It's that easy. So that's Microsoft Text-to-Speech having been added to Jambonz. Stay tuned for future episodes in this short series where I'll introduce some of the other new features in version 070. Thanks, and have a great day.